Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast. I wanted to start off today's episode by reading you a wonderful review from Jerome Shaw. Powerful and wonderful podcast, lifted my spirit. Thank you for spreading your love and light. The world can always use more positivity like this. I can feel the love energy in your voice and it is so comforting. Recommend this podcast to anyone who needs a boost or wants to expand their mind with new and vibrant ideas. Thank you for that wonderful review, Jerome. And it really means a lot to me if you guys can leave me a 5-star rating or write me a little review. It really helps get this podcast out there and helps people find this information. Today, I'm interviewing Viola Hug, a multi-six-figure spiritual business coach and entrepreneur. And yes, she's my older sister as well. And we're going to talk about how to create influence in people and the world, and also how to make money doing so. We discuss how to find your purpose in life and how to live more in alignment for you so that you can make a bigger impact on other people and the world. You can find Viola on Instagram at Viola Hug or check out her Facebook page, which is in the show notes. Go to her website at violahug.com or check out her own podcast at Abundant Babes Podcast. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hello, Viola. Welcome to the Elevate Your Soul podcast.
Thank you, Arel. It's great to be here.
So good to see you. Tuning in from Toronto, right?
Toronto area. Yeah, Ontario.
Toronto area. Nice. First question I have for you is, what elevates your soul?
I feel like I like that question because elevate your soul is like a very nice phrase.
Yeah.
And to me right now, what elevates my soul is just like this knowing. It's like sounds very, very like spiritual and woo-woo, but it's like this knowing that we are so safe and we are so protected. We are so of abundance, and just being able to soak in that and recognize that in my life as much as possible, like right now, because I'm pregnant, like I'm in a very like family orientated vibe in my life right now.
Yeah.
It feels like being with my family, my husband, like feeling the baby kicking my belly, petting my cat, like everything that's just like very, just like reminding me of the true like essence of love in our lives.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. I love that. And can you introduce yourself for people who don't know who you are? You're my sister. I'll say that. If people are like,
Yeah. Okay. So, I guess in a nutshell, the best way to describe like who I am and what I do is I am a true visionary. I'm a very ambitious and visionary and ambitious is a good way to describe it. But I'm also in my soul business, the business where I channel my purpose. I am an intuitive coach for spiritual entrepreneurs. I have this like really beautiful balance between understanding spiritual consciousness and embodiment of our soul's work and our true abundance blueprints and all of these wonderful things, and how we can bring that into the real life human experience, which I so love. Like I'm not like one of those people that's like, oh, I wish I could live in the ethereal all the time. Like I love the human experience. I think there's so much beauty to it, and helping people achieve their most fulfilled and aligned life, I suppose, through their soul's work is what I mainly do. Yeah.
I love that. First, okay, well, not first, but main question I have for you of the podcast is, how can we create more change in the world and influence people's lives?
Yeah, so I feel like this, I'll just give a little bit of context because I know you and I like talked about before why we wanted to talk about this, but like
totally.
This conversation of how we can like create influence and change people's lives in the world really comes from this whole concept of like I've built my business, my current business is about 2.5, well, not even like 2 years and 3 months old.
Yeah.
And it's, it really started from this place of like, I was so sick and tired of doing what I thought I had to do to become successful, right? Like I had for 5 years been under the umbrella of a struggling entrepreneur. Like I was working harder than anyone I knew. I was doing everything I could, and I just wasn't seeing the results. Like, mind you, I had incredible personal growth during that time. I feel like it gave me so much strength. Gave me the opportunity to find the true meaning of abundance, like self-validation rather than seeking validation through external successes or anything, you know, like there's a lot that I learned that was really powerful for me. But I got to this point and I was like, F this, like I'm totally going to do what I want. And I was like, I've been trying for so long, like, what if I just tried a different way? And that way for me was, how can I just do exactly what I want in a way that feels really good for me and hopefully still gives me the results for the life I want?
Right.
And very quickly.
What did you want to stop doing? Like, did you have a coach that you were following, or what was it that made you do the things that didn't feel good to you to be an entrepreneur?
I feel like it was like a multitude of things, like synchronicities, like a lot of things came together. But essentially, like what I was noticing through one, discovering what true abundance meant for me, an internal abundance, right? Which I literally had to have all financial abundance in my life stripped from me before I could even find that for myself. And I think that's a very like important practice as well for a lot of people. Like with clients that I work with, I always make sure that it's like it's an internal feeling that they're after, not necessarily just an external thing, because we will never feel fulfilled if it's only about the external.
So true.
Right? Yeah. And so one, I learned that, and so I knew that I wasn't as attached to like what other people thought as much anymore or whatever. And then I did have like a synchronicity happen where I came across a course, like a business course with a clairvoyant. And I thought I was going into it for one thing, but I came out of it with something completely different, which was this kind of understanding that I have a real uniqueness, that I'd been pushing way too hard in masculine energy. Like I'd been trying to force my way to success, basically. Like I was hustling. I was just doing like what kind of like, I call it like the old paradigm of business. It's like, you have to wake up at 5 a.m. to be successful. You have to stay up later than everyone else to be successful. You have to work 7 days a week to be successful. Like especially that kind of energy. Yeah, exactly. It's like you have to work really hard, and then you'll be grateful later that you worked really hard. And I do think there's things to say about hard work, but for me, it feels more like what I wanted to do is aligned work. Like I didn't want to have to sacrifice myself, my relationship, who I was, the life that I wanted to live now for the life that I could potentially have. Right. And that's why I was so happy when I like started my business, because suddenly I was realizing, oh my God, we actually do get to have it all. Like I can spend as much time with my husband as I want, do date night every night of the week if I want to. I can go out in nature. I can take naps. I can take breaks. I can sleep in, and I can still have the results of my business that I want.
Yeah.
Right. And that was like,
take a bath in the middle of the day.
Exactly. My 3 p.m. Wednesday bath, you know, like, yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, I promise I'm getting to your question.
No, it's fine. I love this. I love this.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Then it was like this real, for me, the work was then like, it feels a lot more purposeful than just like, it's not just about having money. I am not ashamed to admit I want to be super rich. Like I love wealth. I love money. I love, like, I have a very like, like, I don't know how to describe it, but my relationship with money has shifted a lot. Like I didn't always feel like this. I would have felt too embarrassed to say anything close to this, but I know the beauty that comes with the core essence of what, money, which is really just the physical, like our human experience of abundance in a form, you know, like what that means to us, and how really who you become on the journey when it's done in a soulful way, of pursuing that and everything. It's like really beautiful. So I have like all of that side, but the real thing is that I started to realize that a lot of the things we thought success was about is not what it's about. Like it's not about having 100,000 followers on Instagram. It's great if you do, you know what I mean? But when I started my business, I thought, oh, if I want to be successful, I need to grow my Instagram following. That was like one of the first things that I thought. Right. I was like, how do I grow my Instagram following? And I was like trying to get like real obsessed with like, I need more followers if I want to be more successful. Yeah. Well, long story short, I built my business to over 6 figures with pretty much no change in my Instagram followers.
Nice. Yeah.
And that's where this conversation that like you and I were having, I think almost a year ago now, is like, it's really not about, like, there's a difference between having influence and being an influencer, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
there's a difference between just like having things happen in your life, or like doing something and actually having an impact on people.
Right.
And when it comes to how do we really truly change people's lives, it comes back to remembering that we're here to impact and to serve and to show up for one person at a time.
Okay.
It's not about the 100,000 followers. It's not about the 300 likes on your photo or whatever.
Yeah.
It's about that every single one of those likes is one person,
Mm,
right? And
mm-hmm.
when we can remove ourselves from what we've been conditioned to think is the thing we need, then we actually bring ourselves back to human connection.
Yeah.
And we remember what the core purpose is. And then that person on the other end, whether it's one of the 300 who liked your photo or just the one,
Or just the one out of the two.
yeah, or the one of the one, like,
Yeah.
who knows?
Yeah.
You know, like, we have to remember that we're dealing with people here. We're not dealing with numbers.
Right.
And I
Right.
think when we come back to that connection, then we tap into a different frequency in our energy. And then suddenly the way we share things, the way we show up is so much more powerful, right? And then we're changing the same amount of people's lives or more people's lives than the people with way more numbers.
Yeah.
And not saying that I mean, of course you can still have impact on a lot of people, and
Yeah.
absolutely, especially if you take it from this perspective, you're going to have more influence as an impact as you continue to grow.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think coming back to that place and like disassociating ourselves from what we think is the
Right.
success level, or, you know, like,
How can we
yeah,
make an influence on people? Yeah.
mm-hmm,
More followers.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So how do we actually make that significant change in someone's life, even if it's like not 100,000 people? How can we
Mm-hmm.
begin to change people's lives and change the world?
I think this is like such a broad question,
Big
but
question
for
too.
me, I'll tell you from my perspective, right? Like, from my perspective, I really feel like we all have purpose. And I don't mean a purpose.
Okay.
I don't mean a job. I don't mean your purpose is to do this, be that, whatever. I
Mm,
mean, we all have purpose energy, which is an energy that flows through us, and it can be channeled into many different things. Like, I know for myself, I feel purpose when I love doing podcasts, for example. I love doing the work that I do, but I also feel it when I'm really there for my family. I also feel it when I'm really like showing up in other ways. Like, I feel it when I'm being creative. I feel it in so many different avenues. And right now it's channeling through me as a coaching business and the other things I've done. But in my lifetime, it will probably channel through to be many other things as well, right?
right.
Like, I don't always need to be a coach to be in purpose. I'll always
Right.
have that purpose. So there's like an energy that we channel. And I feel like the energy, for those of you that like already do soul work that are listening, like, you'll probably understand, it's like, you just feel so good about what you do. Like, it just
Yeah.
feels good. You're excited about it.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then
That's really
for
important.
those,
It's not just like
yeah.
one thing, like, oh, I just need to have this one job or this one business or this
Mm-hmm.
one career. It's like, as long as you're following what's in alignment for you, that can show
Yeah.
up in many different ways. Because people are
Yeah.
really scared about like getting their dream job and then like, oh, great, is that it for the next 40 years? I'm just going to be in the same job. Like, no, that
It
can
can
shift.
evolve, it can change, like, it can, like, it may be the same thing, like, and that was another thing. It's like what you're saying, like, some people have the fear of, oh my god, what if I decide that I'm going to do this and then I get bored of it one day? Well,
Right.
you can change. But then some people also have the fear that they won't ever really, they'll like do something and then they'll lose it. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the fear with my first business, I had the fear that I was going to lose that business, and that meant that I would lose my opportunity. Right. So it was kind of like, I was like, if I don't make this successful, then what the F am I going to do?
Right.
Right. Whereas, like, really the truth is that if it's really aligned and feels amazing, it's going to always feel amazing, and you're going to be able to keep doing it. And
Yeah.
you're always going to, who you become through it is always going to be someone who's going to be able to make it through anything and build that energy back up in your life or that business or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then also you're always allowed to change. So it's about the feeling. And so when we follow what feels good, I'd say most people fall under the category of helping either like having a true passion to help either the planet, the animals, or the people, right? Like I feel like those are like the three main categories we're often pulled to like
That's
really do soul
beautiful.
work.
That's
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's just like giving ourselves permission to try things out, to do work, to give ourselves opportunities to pivot when things don't feel good anymore, to give ourselves opportunity to try new things that maybe nobody's done before, and
Yeah.
just trust, like, if it feels good for us, explore it. Like I always say, like, people are way too serious about their purpose and like the work they should do as well. It's
Yeah.
like really about just be playful and have fun with it, and just say, what if I just gave this a try? What if I just played around with it? What if I was just like, you know, like practicing, and this wasn't even the final
Yeah.
game, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
Oh, that's so
yeah.
interesting. And so do you feel like the more in alignment someone is with what they're doing, career or not career, that
Mm-hmm.
they're then able to have more of an influence on people and more of a shift in energy on our planet?
I think
Is
so.
that about like being in their own alignment?
I think it has a huge part to do with it, because if you think about it, it's kind of like the frequency at which you're um, communicating at. Like, for example, if you're out of alignment with something and you're like telling somebody something, then it's going to be very hard for them to feel the full shift of it. Like, have you ever had that when you're like talking to someone and they say something that you've heard 100 times before, but suddenly your body goes, oh my God, I get it now. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard this before, but I get it now. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's because the person's ready to receive the message, but sometimes it's as well, it's because of the alignment of the person telling you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and also the match, because I feel like we have soul people we're meant to work with. So it's like when you're a match with the person who needs to hear the message, it's like fireworks.
Totally.
Uh,
Yeah.
and of course there's many of those connections. But yeah, so it's like the more in alignment you are, the more clear your message is, the more your energetic frequency is like very crisp and clear of what it is. So it's like easier to read from people,
Yeah.
which makes complete sense. It's like trying to look through a window when it's the window's all fogged up,
Yeah.
versus when it's completely clear and like, I get it, you know. And alignment for me also, like, just to, I feel it's coming through to mention this, but it's like, it's about our integrity, it's about our embodiment, it's about our willingness to live out the level that we preach, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like when we're in alignment, it's not necessarily that you have to always know everything and have everything figured out for yourself, but it's that what you do know, you really you practice it. So when you speak about it, it's not just because you know it, it's not just because you've heard it intellectually, but it's because you know the impact of it in your life.
Yeah.
And that communication from a knowing versus a cool idea is a completely different energy.
And you can feel that too when people
Mm-hmm.
are saying something on their social media or whatever. You're like, oh, okay, did you just pick that up from someone else's profile and decided to regurgitate it? Or is it something you
Yeah,
authentically feel called to speak about today because
exactly.
it's impacted your own life?
Yeah. And I think there's like two sides to that as well. Like, I have so much more compassion for that energy, because like I know when you first learn something, you just get so excited about it, you know, and you there's just like no other way you can think of explaining it. And if you want
Oh,
to share it or whatever, it's like there's a part of us that like I feel like we sometimes, because every idea originates somewhere really,
yeah.
but like, you know, it's like we have to, sometimes we need to like speak in other people's terms before we figure it out for ourselves. But I think where we really start to make an impact on people is when it truly comes from ourselves. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
people, like if you notice, you're just like, I just spoke about that and now they posted about it, like did they copy me? You know, sometimes we have that, we feel that, but really it's just like, well, you know, like where that message is really going to make a difference in their life and for their people is once they've integrated it, but they're allowed to borrow it until then. So it's like either it's going to fall
Right.
away
Mm-hmm.
or they're going to become in alignment with it, and then it's going to become their own, and then they're going to have the impact with it.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And how can we begin to, if we follow our passion and what brings us joy and living in alignment, how can we begin to earn money, especially as like entrepreneurs, and like follow that, like help change people's lives, and as you said, like save the planet or help the animals or the humans? How can we begin to earn money with that? And I like to just highlight once again in the beginning that, you know, you don't have thousands and thousands of followers on hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
but you're already earning a 6-figure income with your business.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that's really important to mention again. But yeah, how can we begin to earn money with that?
Yeah. So, this is like the magic question. How do you earn money? But I mean, I think there's so many opportunities. I don't think that there's a right and a wrong way. I think the people that I resonate with though, and the people that I usually connect with, they desire to do their business online, and I think that we have such an incredible opportunity online, especially as spiritual entrepreneurs, as heart-centered humans, because we have the natural ability to connect, right? And I do think connection is one of the key components to new age business, right? Like the new paradigm of business.
Yeah.
People don't just fall for what you say. Like what you said before, like you can kind of like, you can have a bullshit writer online. And then also, people are really like, people want to work with you when they feel impacted by you.
Right.
And connected to you, right? And that comes through, like, I think there's so many things where I could take this conversation, but having the, I guess if you're just starting out, having the courage, it really does take a lot of courage to just try it out and put your services out there. Like, I think sometimes we're waiting for like some sort of like blessing from God to be like, you are now ready to start a business,
right.
or we think that we need to pass some sort of universal test before we're ready, or we think one day magically we're going to feel ready.
Right.
But that's not the case at all. Like, and I think that's why like way less people ever pursue a business or become successful with a business than there could be, because they're waiting for something that's never going to happen. Like, you really have to have the courage to start it.
Right.
And then take ownership of the fact that you're doing it. Like, the minute that you decide you're going to do it, you are worthy of being in that space. Like, you're worthy anyway, but you're, like, you're deserving to be there. You have a place, because not everyone has the courage to say, I'm starting a business. I'm going to pursue my passions. Right?
Totally. And personally, I'm in that boat right now too.
Yeah.
I want to be a relationship coach. I'm like, I'm so scared of being like, hey guys, I'm now a relationship coach. And then just like crickets. Like, like I have no clients.
And there might be crickets at the beginning, but that's okay. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable for a little while. And I remember, like, I mean, you can get in your head about it, but when I first started my coaching business as well, it was like, well, I launched my services and not 1,000 people signed up. So I guess that's the end. Like, it's easy to think that, but it's just like, I remember, like, I think it was just the culmination of where I was in my life and like everything that had led up to that point. But I was so ready just to be playful with starting my business that I was just like, I deserve to be here. I just showed up and I'm like, hey, I'm a coach now. These are my services.
And that's what I was wondering too. So for people who are caught up with the whole university thing, you need a degree in something. What do you say to that? If someone has a hot desire like me to be a relationship coach, or they feel they're naturally gifted to influence people's lives and change people's lives, but they're like caught up in this imposter syndrome, like, oh, but I don't have a degree in this, or I need to study psychology first, or whatever the case may be. What do you say to that?
Well, when we have a desire, I believe our soul, I don't think it's possible for us to desire something unless it's meant for us. Like, I straight up don't believe that. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why would our soul be like, I want to do this? And then the universe be like, jokes though, you never will. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And so when we're called to something, I really think that we're called to it. Like, I had a consultation call with a client, like a potential client yesterday. And she was like, oh, do you think I'm ready to like start working with a coach? And I'm like, why would you be here? Like, if you weren't ready, like, why did you book a consultation call? Right. And it's like, sometimes we forget that it's like, when we have the desire, it means we're ready. Okay. Now, of course, there's some things, like, if you want to be a psychologist, you're probably going to need a degree.
Or a surgeon.
If you want to be a surgeon, I highly recommend you go down the traditional path of becoming a surgeon. Yeah. There's some circumstances where, of course, that's the legal requirement.
Yeah.
But there's also, like, in terms of impacting people, like, you don't have a fear of giving someone relationship advice if they're your friend and they come and ask you for help. Where the imposter syndrome comes in is, will people pay me? Right? And usually, usually that's more than a money blueprint problem. So then it's working on the money blueprint, right? Then it's like seeing if there's any like fears that come up when you think about being paid, like, you know, and I mean, yes, there are still valid fears of like, can I do this? But you have to give yourself the opportunity just to try it out and find out. And then the final part of this, where I feel like people experience imposter syndrome, is if they're trying to be something that they don't feel fully integrated in. So for example, like at the start of my business, I really wanted to teach on money just because everything I'd learned about money, I was so excited about. And I like my relationship with abundance, like I knew what it felt like to feel abundant inside before you had the money in your life. But I wasn't making money yet in my business, really. Like I was only just starting to make money. And so when I thought of that, I got like a massive, like, no, I'm not ready energy. Right. And but I really wanted to. And people always said, oh, do a money course, like do something on money. Because when I spoke about money, it was exciting and people liked it. But it wasn't until much later that I suddenly got this energy and I was like, now I'm ready. Like now I'm making money. Now I have a completely different relationship with money. Now I know what it feels like to go from not having money to having money and sustaining an income. Like now I feel fully in integrity with teaching.
So in that case, you were waiting to feel ready, and you had a moment where you did feel ready. And you didn't jump.
Yeah, exactly. But that was because if I tuned into my own energy, I'm like, I'm not actually in integrity with teaching someone how to make money because I don't really have anything to show for that. Right. But what I am in integrity with is having courage. I am in integrity with starting a business. I am in integrity with, I don't know, like ask yourself, like, depending on what you want to do, it's like, where are you in integrity? Self-love, you know, like having different perspectives, being brave, like, where are you in integrity? And maybe start there, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
For me, it would definitely be happiness. And I love coaching people on that too, which the core of that is usually self-love. But like, I feel like I'm not ashamed to say I'm a great example for that. Like I'm pretty much always happy for the most part. So it's another topic. Interesting.
So that's how, you know, it's like, I want to start here, or this is what I want to do. So like, for example, with relationship coaching, and totally don't take this on board if it doesn't align, but it's like, you want to do relationship coaching, and maybe the first place that you feel most in integrity to help is not people with the relationship they currently have, but finding it in themselves so they feel good, so that when they find a relationship, they still feel whole. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's the part. Or, you know,
themselves.
So it's like, where do you feel most in integrity? But it doesn't mean that you can't do the thing. There's always something you can do.
Right.
And then otherwise see if it's really just a money story, and then explore that.
Exactly. And a lot of us are just afraid to just try something anyway and fail. Like I'm a perfectionist. And so I wouldn't want to be like, oh, I'm going to like do this whole course and coaching thing. And like in my mind, I'm like, I know if I start now, I know I'll be so much better in 5 years. And then I'm like, oh, but I'm going to be embarrassed until I get to the 5-year mark. But I'm like, I can't get to the 5-year mark unless I start. And like what it is with this, like with anything, with coaching, creating your own business, even just getting a job, it's like, you're not going to be as good in the beginning as you will be later down the road. And that's a hard thing for me to digest, is like,
you have to be okay with sucking.
You have to you have to be okay with kind of like being at the beginner level and like being
you have to. And sometimes it's an ego trip as well. Like I think perfectionism is like one of the most, like, we like think it's really like a cool thing to have. It's really like so not. And especially as an entrepreneur, because there's no space for perfectionism, because that's how people get stuck. Like you have the choice, like wait until you feel like your thing's perfect a million times, like years down the road, or like start now, see what it feels like, change what you don't like, adjust what you like, try it again, change what you don't like, add what you like, try it again, and then you're like, oh, it's perfect, and it only took me a month. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so it's like, and I think, like I always say, we learn so much more in the evolution of what we create than in the initial phase. Like when I think about my first coaching offer, like I don't do anything close to my first coaching offer now, but I had to start there because I had to start somewhere. I didn't know. I'd never done coaching before. How was I supposed to know what it would feel like to sit with an hour with someone and coach them? Right. Like I just had to start somewhere. And then I was just like, I really actually liked it at the beginning, but then I did a few of them and I'm like, actually, you know what, like I feel like I want to do more long-term work with people. Like I hate just doing one session and then being like, oh my god, I want to like check on you every day and see how you're going. And I was like, okay, maybe I need to offer more ongoing work. Okay, start there. That's the next evolution. Blah 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 blah. Go.
Are you doing any group work in your business? Like, do you coach in groups, or are you doing only one-on-one?
So I do one-on-one coaching. I do group programs, and I do also do like more like mastermind, like group coaching stuff, but I don't have anything available right now, but soon.
Nice.
Yeah.
And another thing I want to point out is like at the beginning phase where, you know, you're a beginner and you might suck a little bit. It's important to like start the amount you pay, the amount you charge people, you want that to be a bit lower too, right? Like you don't want to, like probably what you're earning now or what you charge per hour now is completely different from what you charged in the beginning when you started. Yeah.
It is very different. But again, it's the evolution. When I first started, I thought I charged like, I was like, oh my God, if someone pays me this for an hour, like I've made it. Like this is like the most, and I felt an integrity with it. Like I still felt like it was my value. I still felt good to tell people that was my price.
Nice.
I still felt excited by it. But then, you know, I did a few sessions, and even like the minute that my first one-on-one ongoing client signed up, I knew my prices were going up. Like, and it wasn't that I regretted giving her that price. I loved giving her that price. It was the price that felt in alignment. But as soon as I started working with her, I could feel like my confidence, my energy, and everything change. And I knew I was ready to charge more. And then I felt in alignment with charging more.
Yeah.
So I don't necessarily think it's like you have to be like, oh, I have to charge less because I'm at the beginning, but you have to charge with what you feel like is still valuing yourself and still value, like creating value for the person who pays you, because you have to remember that what you charge isn't just about you. It's actually also about the level of transformation you're offering for the person.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So like when I first started, when I wanted to, like when I signed up to my first program, it seemed like outrageous for me to pay $400 for a program. Like I was so nervous about that.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, I'm literally spending like almost $9,000 a month on a coach, like crazy amounts. Right. So it's like, anyway, it's like the shift is very, very for both people. And so it's like, what's an integrity? Like, what do you feel good charging? What do you feel good about creating for like the person who you want to work with? And then doesn't make you feel like you want to throw up when you say the price.
Yeah.
And then you say it, and then someone pays you and you're like, oh my God, that wasn't so bad. This is great. And then if you feel like putting the price
from there, right? Just by taking the first step.
Yeah.
And like, I'm kind of waiting for the confidence to like knock at the door and be like, I'm here. And then I'm like, oh, now I'm ready. It's like,
the perfect analogy is like, imagine if a baby like learning to walk fell down and was like, oh my God, that was so embarrassing. I'm just going to not walk until I can walk. And then when I can walk, then I'll walk again. Like, but I'm just, or trying to talk, you know, they're just like, say mama, and the baby's like blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, that was so embarrassing. That did not sound anything like what she said. I'm not opening my mouth again until I'm a perfect linguist. Like, you know, like,
so true.
No,
how long did it
doesn't happen that way.
No. How long did it take you from when you started the business and you were feeling a bit like your confidence level wasn't there yet, to a point where you were just like rolling the dice and you're just like, yeah, I got this? How long did that actually take for you?
Okay, so remember as well that I had like a lot of personal development under my belt, right? So it's like, I feel like by the time that I was in it, I was already kind of feeling a particular type of strength. Just one other thing came through. But what I actually, the biggest difference, and so I've worked with clients who literally like from day one were starting their business the day they've worked with me. So I've also seen people who like had no prior entrepreneurship step into it and completely own the game from the beginning as well.
Wow.
The difference is though, is like, it's not necessarily fake it till you make it, but know your place. Like, know that you deserve to be there. Like what I was saying before, it's like, if you decide to do it, you deserve to be there. So you don't need to be like, oh, maybe will you like to buy my service? It's just like, this is what I do now, you know, like, and inside you're just like nervous and you're sweating and your like voice is quivering and like all the things. But it's like, the more you show up and the more you kind of like act with the fear, act in courage, it's like every single time you act with courage when you're scared, you up level. So it's not that there's necessarily an amount of time, because it also matters how willing you are to show up in that amount of time.
Yeah.
I showed up every single day. I made a commitment when I started my business. I don't even know why I did this. They were just like the things that came to mind when I first started, but I was like, I'm going to do an Instagram story every single day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, which most people do anyway. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it was just like,
But was it like a photo of your breakfast, or was it like you talking?
at the beginning, I didn't care because relationships is still important. Lifestyle is still important. Your breakfast can still be important.
Right.
But because I was now a coach, I was like, I'm also going to share my coach stuff. So I might take a picture of my calendar and be like, setting up like times for appointment calls. Let me know if you want to book in.
Yeah.
Or I might say like, here's a tip on abundance, or here's a thought that I had, or here is how I'm meditating to like show, like integrate what I teach. Like, you know, like, it was just all different things.
Integration that you're already doing in your lifestyle. Okay. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing, because when people hire a coach, for example, they want to know that their coach isn't bullshitting them. You know, it's about calibration energy. So people aren't going to want to work with you if they don't see how you're leading yourself in your own life.
Totally.
So people want to see that stuff. And that's like one of the biggest things people say to me all the time, like, and this is specific to my brand, not everyone has to fall under this, but like, I'm very relatable. I'm very silly. I mess up my words all the time. Yeah. I do really ridiculous things in my stories, but then I also like bring the heat and the fire and like get super sassy. Right. Yeah. So it's like people like the relatability of me, because when they see me like with my hair all messy and like saying something funny that happened, they're like, oh, haha, that me and my husband do that too. Or yeah, I get that. And it's that relatability, and they can see me being a real human while also being a freaking badass and like killing it in my business. Exactly. And, you know, so it's like, that's what they like.
Yeah.
The real life aspect of it. Like, how are you really leading yourself?
Yeah, being real. Exactly. And you need to ask yourself, are you being real?
Exactly.
Yeah. How can people
I tell you what, I was just going to say, it's so much easier to build a business when you are being just like honestly yourself, because then you don't have to come up with a mask. Like, you just show up.
And that's really important. I think a lot of people feel like that too. It's like, okay, I'm starting my business now. Like, like everything I post needs to be about this business. And
and that's, I think, if I can give you a tip, it's just like, don't lose yourself. If anything, it's an opportunity to find yourself. Like, really get clear on like, what's your story? What's the magic in your story? Like, how did you get to this point? Like, really own the fact, like, if you are at this point where you want to start a business, you're magic. Like, you're so like, you have so much to give, and it's hard to see it because you're so close to your own story, but give yourself an opportunity to step back and look at your own story and be like, oh my gosh, I am amazing. You know, and what you like and what feels good for you.
Yeah. Wow. That's beautiful. That's really profound advice. Thank you. How can people find you on Instagram?
Viola Hug. Very simple. Yeah. So,
and anything else, any other links you want to share? Your podcast?
Well, yeah, so I also have a podcast. Like, I have a brand called Abundant Babes, which I have a podcast, and I also have a Facebook group, which is kind of like the other place that I love hanging out, which is Abundant Babes, a home for a visionary. There or Facebook are the main places. violahug.com. Not that it's like super up to date, but it has all the main ways that you can work with me if you ever need to look that up.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much.
Hey YouTube fam, if you like this video, make sure to hit the like button below. And if you think a friend, a family member, or just someone you know who could benefit from this podcast episode, please share this video with them. And if you've been enjoying the Elevate Your Soul podcast, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for new episodes weekly. Thank you.